The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening and welcome to the first CAS webinar. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us this evening. My name is Julia Adamson and I am the Director of Education at BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT. And there are other members of the BCS team also on hand to pick up your questions and comments during the webinar. You can post these using the question drop-down menu towards the right-hand side of your screen. We've had a number of questions sent through already, and I will be dealing with those at the end of the session this evening. If your question hasn't been answered by tonight's webinar, please don't worry. We'll add them to a list that we're keeping, and we will include them in the next webinar. So, if we're all ready, I'm going to get on with the content itself. In this session, I will introduce the new National Centre for Computing Education. I'll talk about the role of BCS as part of the Winning Consortium, and what I'm sure will interest you most, the role of CAS in all of this. Just to make it clear, this programme only relates to England. We're going to record the session and we'll make it available for viewing later. I do plan to deliver more webinars over the coming weeks and months, so please do send in your feedback on this session so that we can continue to improve and provide the content and communication styles that suit you most. So to get us started, I'm going to give you an introduction to the National Centre for Computing Education, who's involved, what they'll be doing and why. Then I'll go on to explain more about CAS and the role that we have in supporting the development of communities of practice as part of the National Centre. And finally, I'll address some of the specific questions that you have already raised to us. I want to start by just revisiting a bit of the background. So for several years, CAS has been asking the government for serious support to train and equip existing computing teachers at all key stages to turn the aspirational goals of the new national curriculum into a vibrant reality in every classroom. Informed by the Royal Society report after the reboot, the DFE announced £100 million for this exact purpose, of which 84 million was to be spent in England. The rest has been allocated to the devolved nations under a standard process called the Barnett formula. The £84 million investment was to be realised in 4 separate programmes under a procurement process. These are called lots. Each lot has to be bid for separately against a strict evaluation criteria. Bidders were able to choose to bid for one or more lots. So let's have a look what's in each of those lots. So lot 1 was for the National Centre for Computing Education and computing hubs, and it was to establish a network providing support for teachers in primary and secondary schools and facilitating links with industry in England. Create a network by identifying and recruiting at least 40 school led hubs, develop, curate and provide a library of high quality subject-rich resources for teachers to cover the whole curriculum from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 4, forge links with relevant industries in the digital and tech sector, and work with government to promote and facilitate industry support for computing. Provide targeted and free support for priority schools, and those schools have been defined by DFE as schools in category 5 and 6 areas. In lot 2, the GCSE training programme, a free certified training programme needs to be provided to deliver at least 40 hours of training to a cohort of 8,000 existing secondary computing teachers. This will be free to use for teachers and schools, including their supply costs, and in essence it will provide both subject and how to use knowledge for teachers. So let's have a little look at lots 3 and 4. So lot 3 covers A-level computing, and this is to develop a range of knowledge-rich resources deliver a programme of face-to-face roadshows and masterclasses for pupils. So this is the first time any of the programmes talk about engagement with students themselves. And free support to A-level teachers, including training to develop A-level subject knowledge and guidance on promoting computer science A-level to younger pupils. And this will be targeted at schools and colleges that currently offer A-levels but don't currently offer A-level computer science. And finally, Lot 4, which covers a pilot programme looking at gender. The Royal Society report highlighted how girls don't often identify with the subject, nor see it as relevant to their career options and feel that it's too difficult. Society and media tend to portray computing as a male pursuit, and recent research indicates that some approaches are more effective at engaging girls, including strategies such as pair programming and collaborative work. Procurement is actually still underway for this lot, and the successful bidder will be announced in due course. The idea is to run a pilot programme to see how girls can be encouraged to become interested in computer science. So we'll find out more about that as that procurement process comes to an end. So let's have a look now at who does what. So the process to prepare for our bid started about a year ago after the DFE announced the original investment and plans. And we understood at BCS that the National Centre and its associated programmes were going to be significant and a really ambitious ask. And we recognised that we needed to work with a range of partners who could complement our experience and our capabilities. So we formed a consortium along with our lovely partners at STEM Learning and the Raspberry Pi Foundation. And together we believe that our three organisations are uniquely placed to lead the National Centre. We have extensive experience of providing high quality support to computing teachers with evidence of impact on teachers and students. And importantly, we all run on a not for commercial profit basis. So who does what when it comes to the consortium? So STEM Learning are the lead partner and responsible for management, reporting and communication. They will provide recruitment, training and support of the 40 school-based hubs. They will provide face-to-face content and materials for CPD, including the GCSE, computer science teachers, as well as all other phases. And they'll also lead on the transitionary arrangements to engage regional partners to support the CPD delivery prior to the school-based computing hubs coming on stream. Raspberry Pi will deliver the web content, and you've hopefully already seen that the National Centre website is up and available. This is just an initial single page site that we wanted to have available for the announcement and to allow people to start to receive communications from us. It's very early days, as you can imagine, but there actually are some courses on the new website, but we expect the first phase of the new website to be available early 2019, where we'll see lots more resources and courses and functionality. They're also, Raspberry Pi are also leading on the resource bank, so that rich set of resources from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 4, comprehensive resources to support the computing curriculum. And they're also responsible for the A-level programme and for research. Onto BCS. So as you know, we're the Chartered Institute for IT, and we have a long established academic standards for computing. So we're leading on that piece. And as such, we're going to provide the certification for teachers who've completed CPD under the programme. We also support and manage computing at school, and we will also lead on industry engagement, which I'll come on to in a little bit more detail as we move through. So, what are our promises then? What are we actually going to do? So I think the most important thing to say first off is that we're going to build on the strong foundations that have been established by Computing at School. We're incredibly proud of what CAS has achieved so far, and this new programme really does build on what has been achieved. We're going to establish a system of certification which will lead to chartered status, professional recognition for computing teachers. We'll develop a network of at least 40 computing hubs based in schools, which will be underpinned by the vibrant grassroots communities of practice in CAS. We'll provide face-to-face and online training that's grounded in the best research and delivered in a variety of flexible ways that will fit in with teachers' busy lives. We'll curate a comprehensive bank of educational resources. We will make CPD available at no cost to teachers in priority schools, and we will cap charges at a very low rate for others. We will make all online courses and resources free for all teachers. And we will provide bursaries to schools in areas of disadvantage to enable them to release teachers to take part in professional development. This, we know, is important as it has been a barrier to teachers taking part in CPD in the past. We will work with industry and non-profit partners to integrate a wide range of proven curriculum enhancements. So that's kind of top line summary of what we're going to do. So when will it start? So the National Centre website is already available, but as I said earlier, it's in its very early stages. The contract was only signed and announced last week. So there is plenty more to come. Meanwhile, though, you can find the link to join and you will get regular emails about our progress. So you can go to www.teachcomputing.org. And there are, you will then get a welcome email and access to some links to some initial training courses that you can sign up for straight away. And you can also follow the National Centre on Twitter at We Are Computing. Plus, now the announcement's been made and finalised, there'll be a number of job adverts that you may have already seen to encourage people to get involved in working with us on the programme itself, including at BCS. You can find more details about these vacancies via the national website, and you'll get a link off to the opportunities at STEM, at Raspberry Pi and at BCS, so please do take a look. So next we're going to move on to computing hubs. So I mentioned 40 school-based computing hubs. The entire programme is organised around this network of schools that will be geographically distributed around the country. These hubs will ensure that the programme is school-led and reflects the actual needs of teachers on the ground locally. Similar to the maths hubs in the National Centre for Excellence in Teaching Mathematics. So if you're familiar with that model, you'll perhaps have an idea of the sort of thing that's going to happen here. Each hub will be responsible for inspiring and equipping teachers in its area, supported by the guidance and resources from the National Centre team, as well as computing at school and local industry. We'll come on to that a little bit more in a minute. Our goal is to have the first wave of 10 school-based hubs up and running by the middle of next year, and the remainder, so all 40, by the end of next academic year. So let's go on to how CAS is going to be involved. I can't emphasise this enough. You know, CAS is absolutely a key element of the new programme, and we aim to build on what's been achieved by CAS so far. CAS will have additional resources in the form of a community outreach team, as well as some community coordinators, and they will support, recruit and train our wonderful volunteer community. In addition, we're focusing on creating the best possible online community of practice experience for our CAS members. And our coordinators will be a very important additional resource here. We're working on a scope for a new website, and we have ambitious plans to secure industry funding to make this possible. So this is not part of the DFE funding, I stress. We're putting this together ourselves. We will be consulting with you, our CAS community, to find out what your priorities are and your key challenges are really very soon. So that's something that we're working on right now, and be coming out and talking to you in the coming weeks. So as with anything new, there are inevitably changes. And one of the things that is going to have to change is the word hub, actually, of all the things that's going to have to change. So we're used to calling the CAS things that go on locally as CAS hubs, and many of you on the webinar this evening may well be a CAS hub leader, or you may attend your local CAS hub. Because the programme is centred around 40 school-based computing hubs, it is inevitably going to be confusing if we have two things called a hub. So CAS is going to change its name from hubs to something else. And for now, in this early stage, we're going to refer to them as communities of practice, and you can see them on this diagram here, a local community of practice. It's not as catchy a term as the CAS hub, but we've been exploring alternative names, and of course we will be consulting with you on what the best thing to do in the situation is. We also then need to think about the term CAS hub leader. And for now, we're going to refer to that role as a CAS community leader, and the CAS hub meetings as CAS community meetings. But as I say, this is all for now, and more consultation, I think, until we get settled on that one. Just coming on to CAS Master Teachers. We very much hope that existing CAS Master Teachers will want to become CAS community leaders and lead the activity in their local area and their region in relation to CAS community. We also hope and expect that many CAS Master Teachers will work in schools that wish to be considered as one of the 40 computing hubs. And in fact, some of you as CAS Master Teachers may also wish to apply for key leadership roles within those computing hubs as they're established. This is the role of STEM learning, so identifying, recruiting, supporting the 40 computing hubs is a role that STEM learning is managing. And so my recommendation for anyone who is interested in becoming for their school to become a computing hub, or for them themselves as a CAS Master Teacher who may be interested in having a role in one of those computing hubs, is that you should register your interest on the National Centre website. There's a register button. There's also an email address where you can email in any specific requests or inquiries. So that's it in terms of background and in terms of how we got here. But we've had lots of questions from you. You've raised lots of great questions for us to handle. Now, we might not be able to deal with all of them this evening. I know we've been having questions coming in all day today, and we've done our best to prepare for as many as possible, to cover as many as possible this evening. So I'm going to move on to answering some of the most common themes that have come up. All of the answers will be available in the final recording that we can come back to. And for any questions that we don't get round to answering tonight, we will deal with them in the next webinar. So I'm going to take a set of questions at a time and talk you through the answers. So the first question we received was, why is CAS involved if it isn't getting any direct funding? So CAS is governed and managed by BCS. CAS in itself is not a legal entity. It doesn't have a bank account. It isn't an organisation in its own right. CAS has a role to play in delivery and will be funded to do this work. So I hope that answers that question fully for you. If there are further questions that come from that, please do use the questions box, and Abby and Adrian and Simon and the team will pick those questions up and come back to you with an answer. Will the National Centre have a national office? So no, it won't. With office space and office facilities come huge fixed costs. So no, our national presence will be entirely online, but that doesn't mean we're just a website. STEM Learning, Raspberry Pi and BCS have offices and in a number of locations across England. But actually, the most important thing here is that the National Centre will be made physically visible through the 40 school-based computing hubs. That's where teachers will interact with the National Centre. How will the initiative widen participation in deprived areas? So the training will be provided at no cost to priority schools. And if you recall, I said that priority schools were those that have been designated category 5 and 6 areas. For all other face-to-face CPD, the aim is to ensure that the price is absolutely not a barrier to participation, to keep that as low as absolutely possible. We will establish a dedicated fund as part of the Enthused Charitable Trust, who are already working with STEM learning, to channel donations from industry and foundations to bursaries, enabling teachers from priority schools to attend CPD. So that does mean, the cost of supply and the cost of travel and the cost of expenses and things, so that it becomes, there's no barrier to entry. So for this fund, to get this fund going, we've done some modelling, and our modelling suggests that we need to raise about £1.6 million over the lifetime of the contract to enable those bursaries to happen. And that's something that certainly BCS, with its role in leading employer engagement, will be absolutely focused in on, in how to make sure that we get £1.6 million worth of additional fundings to support teachers, so that there aren't barriers to entry. Okay, so question number 4, how can I access the training? So training will be tailor-made. So firstly, teachers will be able to identify areas of their own skills that may need a boost using an online self-assessment, a sort of diagnostic tool to help them identify themselves what their areas of priority are, what their CPD requirements are, and to provide them with a personalised learning journey. STEM Learning will lead the development and delivery of face-to-face CPD, and they will build on the computing CPD programme already being delivered by the National STEM Learning Centre. The Raspberry Pi Foundation will lead the development and delivery of online CPD, and a variety of CPD content will be developed for teachers at different stages in their professional learning journey. So, absolute beginners through to those people who have been teaching this for 4 years and actually just want to brush up on particular aspects of their subject knowledge. Hubs, computing hubs, those 40 school-based computing hubs will have access to all the programmes, and they will draw down this proven content to use in their local areas with teachers as they attend the CPD. Question 5. So back to funding this time. Is there funding to support teacher release and time? So through the Enthused Charitable Trust, STEM Learning has a mechanism for managing bursaries and a track record of raising philanthropic funds to pay for them. So to maximise participation, we will provide bursaries to schools to enable them to release teachers to take part in CPD, including support to overcome specific barriers. All right, moving on to question 6. What else will teachers get out of it? So BCS will also establish a system of certification which will allow computing teachers to evidence their competence alongside rigorous quality assurance. This is evidence of the CPD, and it builds on BCS's experience over the last 4 years of certifying computing teachers. So it's professional recognition around the professional development that you've undertaken. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So how is monitoring carried out to ensure transparency and that funding is not misspent? So the programme will be monitored against key targets, key performance indicators, and there will be penalties, financial penalties, if these are missed. At the end of the 4-year period, an independent audit is carried out, and there is particular funding allocated within the budget to do this. We've been asked how much of the money has already been spent. None of it. The contracts, as I mentioned earlier, were only signed about a week ago, and the budgets will be allocated and spent in accordance with the pledges and the contracts that have been put in place between the consortium partners and the Department for Education. I would stress, though, that all 3 organisations have spent a year and so have already significantly invested their own time and effort and resources in preparing for this. None of the £84 million has been spent yet. That's going to be spent on teachers, and the majority of that money is coming straight out into those computing hubs to deliver locally. Will the National Centre replace all existing computing CPD and training? So no. There'll be lots of great online and face-to-face CPD available, but that certainly will not prevent other routes. This programme is, really very ambitious, and there are lots of opportunities to get involved. So if you are someone who already has the subject knowledge and skills already, and perhaps are supporting schools already, then I would really strongly recommend that you register at the website, you check out recruitment from all of the 3 organisations, you get in touch through the National Centre info @ email address, or if you want, directly with the 3 organisations that are recruiting to talk about the skills that you have, the knowledge that you have, and how you might see yourself helping and supporting the programme. And once the schools are recruited who are going to be computing hubs, there will be another significant wave of recruitment. Okay, so thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you found that useful and helpful. As I said earlier on, we are going to make the recording available to revisit, and we will be following up with further webinars over the coming months. In the meantime, if you haven't already done so, please do sign up for more information from the National Centre's website. That's teachcomputing.org. And at 6:30, it just leaves me to say have a lovely evening and take care, and hope to speak to you all very soon. Thank you.